everyone, I'm Liz Brown Swanson. You're watching RPV City Talk from the beautiful Terranea Resort with the great mayor of Rancho, Palos, Verdes, Mayor John Cruikshank, who every month joins us to talk about all the issues happening in our community. We have a lot to talk about, especially with the Landslide complex. But first, how are you doing, Mayor Cruikshank?
Oh, I mean, I can't do any better, right? We're here at the beautiful Terranea Resort, like you mentioned, and it's another picture postcard type day. So really happy to be here.
Yeah, the mayor has his swimsuit on the side. Stay tuned for that.
Swimming.
We have a lot to dive into, though, especially with the landslide issue, the state of emergency declared in our city because of the unprecedented movement we've been seeing since October, already 6 months. And the city staff, the community's coming together to deal with the issues from the slide. Bring us up to speed with what's going on from the damages we've seen so far to the mitigation measures that the city is working on to resolve all this. We want to talk about just sort of the community resources that are there for the community as we deal with this, and of course, how we are paying for all this. So with those areas to address, why don't we start off with just give us an overview of the damages we've seen so far in the complex area.
Right. Well, since the last time we talked, there were 2 homes red tagged back then. There's currently still just 2 homes that are red tagged. I think we talked about Wayfarers Chapel being closed. That was not red tagged, but they closed voluntarily. They did sustain damages due to the landslide. And then there's many areas, the entire complex, there's about 400 homes or so within that area. It's a square mile of area, and it's basically doubled in size from what we kind of remember a year or 2 ago. And like you mentioned, the unprecedented amount of rain that started last year and has continued on this year has really hurt that area because of the amount of water that's entered the water table. Water table rises up, adds weight, and we've seen so much movement there. So that's, fortunately, there's only 2 homes currently red tagged still.
And of course, the significant damage that we all see as a community is what's going on Palos Verdes Drive South at the infamous ski jump area. A lot of construction out there constantly where we're working to address that. And maybe that will feed into talking about just mitigation measures, how we're dealing with the movement. I don't know if you want to start with how we're addressing PV Drive South and then go into the complex itself.
Now, we could talk a bit about PV Drive South. So, of course, we know that that's a major regional thoroughfare, not just for Rancho Palos Verdes residents, but people that are driving from the San Pedro area up, and of course people from the South Bay down along the coast. That particular street, 15,000 cars per day, so it's a pretty serious road that's used by many. Right now, the road is in pretty good repair because of the construction company that we continually have out there to make those repairs. Of course, people do experience delays when those happen, and what is planned and what is talked about at the last city council meeting is we are probably going to need to close that road down hopefully very quickly to do some major repairs.
And to deal with what's going on with the landslide complex area, the idea is you got to get water out. So the city council has taken some emergency measures to move forward with installing 2 hydroaugers that I think price tag is about $8 million total.
Right.
Can you talk about what's going on with that?
I mean, I know we've talked about what the landslide is and the issue with water. Of course, allowing water into the landslide area is one thing, and then once the water is in there and it's underground, it needs to be pulled out and extracted as quickly as possible. And so these hydroaugers, what you have is each one's located in the Gateway Park area, and then the other one's up near the Burma Road area, up above the landslide area. And it's basically an array of 5 wells that are drilled horizontally into the ground. 5 of them, they're about a quarter mile long each, and they kind of fan out. Once those are drilled, and that is extracted, you have a perforated pipe that actually allows water to gravity drain out of each one. Mm-hmm. And then the idea is that you're extracting that water. Now those drains, the reason they're done horizontally and not vertically is because of the slip plane. If you do them vertically, they just shear right off. But if you do them horizontally, you can actually put those drains underneath the slip plane and be able to extract that water and pull the water down below the slip plane. So it really helps.
There's so many people involved with trying to resolve this, city staff, the council. We have the whole team of engineers, geologists, and then, of course, other agencies are involved we've got to get, local cities, government, from the state government to the federal government. Talk about how the coordinated effort, especially to fund the mitigation measures, which are going to be tens of millions of dollars.
Wow. So, well, I'll say this to our city manager, R. Maranian, and his team. They've basically become the quarterback for all these different agencies. And like you mentioned, you've got Los Angeles County, you've got the state of California, you've got the federal government, and they're all involved in this situation. And the request has been, as probably people recall, there was a state of emergency declared and for California, and then several counties within California. Los Angeles County was one of those. And even though it was declared a state of emergency, so much has to then happen, and we're basically been expending millions of dollars, not just us, but the Abalone Cove Landslide Abatement District, the Klondike Canyon Landslide Abatement District, and homeowners and the HOA. And that those costs have actually been compiled and sent to Los Angeles County. Los Angeles County then compiles all those from all the cities. They send that to the state of California. And then if it meets a certain threshold, which I believe it has, then the governor goes back to the federal government and says, we want the federal government to step in and declare it as a federal state of emergency. Just recently, the governor actually did do that. So we're awaiting that word in regards to FEMA stepping in, and then FEMA potentially would take the costs that we sent and then start to help us with defraying those costs and helping us with the money.
And regarding the funding, $23.3 million FEMA grant has already been awarded for the Portuguese bed remediation project. That money exists. And then you mentioned about the two districts that we have, the Klondike Canyon Abatement District and Abalone Cove. For our viewers watching that might not really understand how those operate, that's their own separate entity in a sense. And we, as a city, the council has agreed to loan these districts money. Is that how that's going to work in the end, or how to help them get going on the mitigation measures?
Yeah, no, thank you for mentioning that. So both those are legally formed, duly elected boards, and they are mandated through the state of California. And so there's 5 members on each, just like our city council is, and they represent protecting from landslides the areas of both the Klondike Canyon area and also the Abalone Cove area. And those are the 2 areas adjacent to what we consider the larger Portuguese Bend landslide complex, where you go back to that FEMA grant, where that money was going to be used for. So that money that was used for that project wasn't allocated for those 2 areas. And so what the city is proposing to do and looking at loaning them money, maybe interest-free money, maybe also providing them resources that our city already has, engineering, geology. We want to help our neighbors as much as possible.
And when you say neighbors, for example, I've always mentioned I live in Seaview. That neighborhood, those homes within my neighborhood are part of the Klondike Canyon District, as well as Portuguese Bend Beach Club homes. And then when it comes to the Abalone Cove Abatement District, it's the neighboring community of Abalone Cove. That's right. So, well, I know that you're on it, and in fact, we're going to have a town hall coming up to address what's going on with the landslide. I don't know if you want to talk about that, because resources too for residents that are being affected.
No, thank you for mentioning that. So a lot of the residents and concerned citizens have said, we need to know more information. And even though there is a weekly Portuguese Bend meeting that's well attended, I want to say 50 plus people every Wednesday during the day, and anyone can be included in that. We thought, let's go the extra mile and have actually a town hall. So I believe it starts at 6 o'clock on the 17th.
April 17th at 6 o'clock. At the brand new Ladera Linda Community Park.
Right, we'll be at the brand new community center at Ladera Linda. And it won't just be the 2 members from the council that are on the landslide subcommittee, which is myself and council member Dave Bradley. Of course, our city manager and his team will be there. And we'll also have our geologists, and I believe both the landslide abatement district, the homeowners associations that are being affected. Everyone's invited to that meeting, and we want to be able to not just give the latest updates, but provide a Q&A where any question can be asked at that point. This whole operation is something that's out in the public, and it's having educated people to help us solve this problem is the best way to go about this.
Anything else you want to add as we wrap it up and move on to other issues going on in this city? I think Rancho Palos Verdes, we can claim we're one of the most beautiful cities in the world to live in. Look at this. But also we have North America's most active landslide. So you've got that to deal with.
We do. Well, certainly it's a huge wart on our society here. I mean, it's something that we've known about, like you mentioned, well, I guess we've known about it for hundreds of thousands of years, and here in this community, of course, 50 plus years. But really, with the unprecedented amount of rain we've had and continue to have, it just exacerbates this issue that and so at this point, we're focused on that to make sure that no further homes are red tagged and people are as safe as possible and our utilities and our road systems are usable.
Yeah, and considering what we've seen with the amazing amount of accelerated movement that we keep saying is unprecedented, the fact that 2 homes have been red tagged, 1 is too many, but we have over 15,000 homes in our city. I mean, so
right, and there's 400 homes in that landslide area.
But thank you for all you're doing and being diligent about it. And we did want to mention that the next city council meeting has been canceled for lack of a quorum, but then this will be continued on at the next meeting. And then, of course, you're going to be able to continue the work dealing with the landslide just because the meeting was canceled.
Well, that's it. I mean, so during the last meeting that we just had prior to filming today, we did give the authority to make sure the city manager could have the ability to hire a company to do the hydroaugers so that he has that ability to do that. The April 2nd meeting, all 5 council members were available to participate, but 3 of them would have had to been out of the area. And because you legally have to have 3 council members in area to have a city council meeting, we weren't going to have that. So we unfortunately had to cancel it, and we'll kick back up on the 16th of April.
Well, thanks for all you're doing, the council, the staff, of course, addressing this. And I want to remind the residents, you can go on the city website and get up-to-date information on what's going on with the landslide and the movement. And you can attend those weekly meetings every Wednesday. That are amazing amount of information.
Wednesday afternoons, yep.
Yes, that are on Zoom. So there's lots of ways to stay connected. We're going to move on to talk about very busy with city goals setting right now. You had a workshop on March 13th. The council did to address the 24-25 annual goals and talk about sort of the big picture and the challenges that lay ahead with goals and what you're coming up with as a council.
Right. Well, and of course we had that on March 13th. And we will, of course, want to be sensitive to what we just talked about, the landslide issues. But, the city does need to continue on things that are also important. And that's why we had our goals workshop, because we do need to use that information to create our budget for the coming fiscal year. And so that process started on March 13th.
And I know that you have sort of these overarching categories, whether it's transparency, public safety, public works, infrastructure. And there was one new goal, I believe, that was added to past goals, which had to do with Western Avenue. Very innovative idea, I thought, as a new goal for the city.
Yeah, no, it was great. So our community development department head, Brandy Forbes, she brought forward to the city council an idea about having a $100,000 grant that could be available for the businesses on Western Avenue. Certainly we want to see all of our businesses within our city thrive, and our friends on Western Avenue, those businesses are very important to our community. So I thought the idea was great, where we could help them maybe do things to renovate their storefront, to get more customers in and help them with their businesses.
Of course, the city is continuously working on beautifying Western Avenue, and that's a major focus as well.
Well, it is. I mean, Western Avenue it's a state highway. And so we, of course, have to work with our friends at Caltrans and the city of Los Angeles, who are our neighbors across the street. But Western Avenue has issues with, of course, traffic and signal timing, which we are continually focused on. But also the businesses, like you mentioned, those businesses they serve our community. They serve the east side of our town and hopefully beyond that. And so we want to help them out.
And of course, major goal, always public safety. And this council continues to dedicate resources to that. And we have a lot in the works in that areas. All these goals you set, you have to finance them. We have to fund them. So let's move on to talk about city finances, how we're doing. And I know you've got a budget workshop coming up as you're setting up the next year's budget for fiscal year 24-25. You want to give us an overview of the process right now, especially the amount of revenues that come from right here at the Terranea Resort. huge contributions with the transient occupancy tax, millions of dollars every year that we depend on from this resort.
I mean, it's incredible what this particular resort generates in terms of occupancy tax. We continue to have one of the lower occupancy tax percentage because we know that will affect their business here. But, they do such a great job here that they're keeping their guests happy. They're raising a lot of revenue for us as a city. And I want to say that it's $8 or $9 million a year now that they're raising. And when you only have a $35, $40 million budget, that's a big part of our budget. It's a quarter of our budget.
Right.
And half of the budget comes from property taxes. So this is a big part of what we do.
I was looking at the number given to us by our finance
What's
team.
the current number?
And they're saying that the projections to reach for the fiscal year 24-25 is $6.4 million.
Seems a little down from last year. I think this is being a conservative.
And that's because it's because there's been a little bit of a decline following the pandemic. But, things, as you can see around us, are hopping down here at Sol Viva.
I think that number is going to be a little.
Yes. Well,
but we have to plan for the worst.
And we have to encourage, we say shop local. Well, come have your staycation local.
I always tell people to come to
There's nothing like being here. It's paradise.
That's
right.
True.
It's
That's
paradise. Okay, and you will have a budget workshop coming up on April 18th. You're gonna have a busy week, Mayor. You've got the City Council on the 16th, workshop on the 18th, and then it gets adopted in June. The final budget.
Well, that's right. I mean, the official budget actually takes place and starts on July 1st. That's the city's fiscal year. But the reason that you have to keep this process moving is that it's not just, our city council that's making decisions, but you also have to send this off to other committees. We have our infrastructure management committee, and of course our city staff has to put all this stuff together, and so it has to be ready to go and approved in June, like you mentioned, before we embark on our new fiscal year.
Got it. Well, one of money well spent, I have to say, as a resident and living right near Ladera Community Park. It's happened. You got to cut the ribbon. It was historic on the grand opening of Ladera Community Park after many years of making that project come to reality. Let's talk about what's there for the community now with the newly opened Ladera Community Park, which was on February 23rd.
23rd.
It's already been over a month since it's been open and running.
It's been open, and according to the city manager, the webcam is still up.
Okay.
He says that he's able to see the kids playing there in the early part of the day, and I'm sure you're seeing people with their paddle tennis because that's clearly important. You have basketball courts, you have the play areas for the kids, you have big lawn areas that the kids can go out and play, but also the building itself. Like the building is an architectural feature that I haven't seen in many cities. And, we're so blessed with, of course, the views that we have. In this particular location, once again, you have the Catalina view and the ocean view. There's several rooms. There's a large community room. There's an area for dance classes and art school. There's a discovery room. And of course, I know that the HOAs like Seaview and Ladera Linda and that they all want to have their meetings there and their monthly meetings.
Showa, I believe, was the very first meeting to take place there at the Councils of Homeowners Association, and it was fantastically attended. And it's an amazing resource, and I call it zen when you're on that property. Like being right here is so zen. It's beautiful, and what it replaced as well. I mean, what was there that the old Ladera Linda site needed to come down and lived its life.
It was old school buildings with asbestos, and it's past its useful life. But I have to give credit to all the people that were involved with this. I mean, we're talking more than 10 years of hard work to get to this, and our community was involved with so many meetings, and we really appreciate it when the community actually comes to these meetings because, if we were to make decisions just as a 5-member body and try to make the right decisions, that's much harder than if you have the whole community coming and participating and telling us, what they think will work and not. And I think the product that we ended up with was absolutely amazing. I would say that if you haven't been there yet, you need to make your way over to Ladera Linda Community Center and enjoy that facility. It's for the whole city.
Yes, and if you get there and you get to get out on that beautiful walking path, 6 laps to get a mile.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so get out there and take it all in. And on that regard, we're going to continue to talk a little bit more about recreation parks in our city. Such an important part of our city. So many amazing options for the community to enjoy. One of them being up at Del Cerro Park. Back on the agenda is the Park Mobile parking system that the council put in place, goodness, back in 2021 to help the impact that it's one of the busiest places in our city was going up to the preserve off of, Crenshaw there, and to help the Del Cerro neighborhood. You put this parking system in place and we continually tweak it. Council tweaked it again at the last meeting in March. So what's going on with the adjustments, and what can you tell the community about that fee-based parking system that still happens? It's still happening.
Well, I don't want to get too much into the sausage making, but everyone knows that we've been tinkering. We've been tinkering with the Park Mobile and the parking situation up there forever. And so the reason that the recent changes were made is that we were informed by I believe the federal government that we had to have a certain amount of public parking that accessed the park. And then if you look at property lines and the way things are between the city property and that, so we had to make adjustments there again. Basically, we did maintain a number of parking that's for the people that live on Park Place, our city staff, and the people that are with the Land Conservancy. But also now there's parking for the public, and we swapped out some of the parking that was with Park Mobile with the public parking.
And of course, everything going on with the landslide, and we talked earlier, we didn't address at the time that there's a lot of trail closures that have happened because of safety. And that's impacted the use, I think, of the Park Mobile right now, because you don't have as many people entering the preserve off Burma Road. So it's all plays in together. But, it's one of those things. It's, everyone's sort of working to make it so that there's access to the preserve and the neighbors are happy. So, and the system is working.
You still have access, but then you get there and it says trails closed. And like you mentioned, there's 8 miles of trails closed. Yep. But when you describe to people why they're closed, it's because of these fissures that are out there and the way that there's fissures that are 10, 20, 30 feet deep and 4 or 5 feet wide. So it's a huge safety issue. And then also in regards to, there's only a small silver lining to all that though. Several of the Edison poles had to be de-energized just because they became leaning and safety issues. And so those poles within the preserve, so that open space we're going to be removing, I think at least 30 poles out of the preserve area. And so people will start to see helicopters pulling those old poles out.
Okay. We're going to move on to something the council has to deal with, which is the city's housing element. And if you can explain what's going on with the process. You're in the process of finalizing that housing element update and all the requirements being put on our city regarding the number of housing units that need to be put in a certain window of time. So why don't you give us an overview, because it's a complex topic and it's ongoing.
It is, and it's not something that's new, but it is complicated. We're in the 6th element of the housing requirements, but it's basically the state of California requires, and the housing element is part of our general plan. And so this needs to be updated, I think it's every 6 years.
Yes.
And so we're in the middle of that right now, and we have been working on it for well before that even started. And our city is being required to have 647 housing units zoned for, not built. A lot of people always ask, well, why is the city building or creating these homes? The city is not. All we're doing is making sure that there's new zoning to allow for those homes to be built if someone were to come in and do that. But if someone didn't come in and do that, that wouldn't happen.
Right. And so this multi-step process regarding figuring out where you can actually put all these units in our city, and there's going to be a rezoning of what's called the MUOD, Mixed Use Overlay District, and the ROD, Residential Overlay District. What should residents understand about this whole element of the rezoning and how it plays in?
Right. Well, okay, so first people need to realize that when we first started talking about this particular housing element, much of the housing units were going to be put on Western Avenue. And the council made a decision, look, if we're going to have some pain, that's not fair for one part of the city to have all that pain. Right. And so I would rather have littler areas that maybe have accommodations for versus just all pain on Western Avenue. So when we told our planning department to do that, they looked for opportunities to put these mixed-use development areas where there could be housing, but included with that housing could be commercial or institutional type usage, depending on the community and what a developer or a property owner would feel is appropriate. So that's what's currently in there. I think there's enough spread out throughout our 42,000 residents to make it palatable for that. And so the Planning Commission, during their meeting, they were able to pass that, and hopefully by the time people are watching this, our city council has...
Right. So this is going to go back before the council for finalization in April?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
the second
tuned.
meeting in April. Actually, the first meeting, because we're canceling.
Right. And I know there's you've been having like virtual open houses on our city website. They had one about what's going on with the mixed use overlay district, and just get on that rpvca.gov and look up all these issues, and you can really learn more as well about the process and all that's going into it. Now we're going to have a whale of a time, because we're going to talk about whale of a day. It's coming up, one of the biggest parties in our city ever, and it's the 39th annual. You probably weren't even born yet.
Oh, thank you for that compliment.
You were being pushed in your stroller there.
No,
there you go.
I was well beyond. Thank you, Liz.
But Mayor, it's a lot of fun for the community, and it's put together by our city and the docents of Los Serenos. So just showcase what's going to be happening. And we know the whales. I mean, this is still whale season. I'm sure a few just have already passed us on their way to Whale of a Day.
Point Vicente Interpretive Center is one of the most beautiful areas in our city. You got the lighthouse there, of course. What you're going to see that day is kids having a lot of fun on all different types of slides and bouncers, and then you've got the food booths and the different craft booths. You also have an opportunity to, I think the puppet person is always there, and then of course all the spotters, the whale spotters, are going to be out watching for whales and making the count. You'll see the board that they're counting the different spottings of the whales and when they spot them, and they're always great to talk to because they can tell you what they've seen. But if you're fortunate enough to be out there when a whale passes by, I'm sure the crowd will cheer for that. But
because they're heading north now, we're in that migration season, but now they're coming back, and they love to come by and say hi to us in Rancho Palos Verdes. I mean, we have a cool location because you can see whales with the naked eye. It's nice to have the binoculars.
They lift their tails up and they wave them at us.
It's going to be nice. And it is an amazing facility for everyone. And we have to remind people that to get there, though, you want to catch a shuttle from City Hall.
That's right.
Because there's really not parking down there. We have thousands of people that come. Also, you can go see the lighthouse grounds. You're not going to get a tour of the lighthouse anymore like they did in the past, but you get a tour of the museum. I don't know if you're going to make your way over there.
Well, I'm definitely going to make my way over there. I mean, and there's so many things you can see, and in the Interpretive Center Museum itself, it will be open.
Yes.
So, no, the docents do a great job of this whole event. And like I said, there's something for everyone there. If you don't leave without some type of cool whale shirt, you haven't done it right.
I'm known to always want to make the whale hat. I highly recommend it.
Okay, I didn't know about the hat.
It's for, newborn to age 99. You can all wear a whale hat, whale-tail hat.
Nice.
So it's April 13th from 10 to 4. Go on whaleofaday.com for all the details. And we're going to see maybe the mayor ringing a bell with those census takers when we spot a whale. All right, we got to start to wrap it up. We only have a few minutes left for you to showcase anything you want to say about mayoral activities you've been involved in the last month, mayor's announcements, and I just also want to thank you as well. One of the things you've been busy doing, I know, is you ran for LA County Supervisor. We all applaud you. Anyone that wants to run for public service, and your dedication to our community is obvious. So that's all. So with all that, now it's back to you.
And this, I want to take this opportunity because two of the council members, myself and Mayor Pro Tem Alegria, we're both term limited out. And there's so many amazing people that live in Rancho Palos Verdes, and I would say this is a great opportunity if you want to get to the point where you're very heavily involved with the way things work in City Hall and for our community to really seriously consider about running for City Council. Of course, we have a number of openings for our commissions and committees, and I think I was on the Planning Commission for 4 years before I got on the City Council. That's a great opportunity. Thank you for mentioning about running for supervisor. It was a great experience. I mean, of course, the results weren't exactly what I wanted, but it was a win-win for me, regardless of what happened, because just having the opportunity to go out and speak about issues and I'm a problem solver. LA County has a lot of big problems. It's important to be a part of that process.
What you do for serving the city. Here we are, Terranea. You just met with those commission and committee members. You do every month, and we want to thank them for volunteering.
Absolutely.
And encourage more people, like you say, to step up.
Absolutely.
So with that, we have to wrap it up here.
Well, this has
We're
been
going to
a
ask the
wonderful.
mayor to jump in the pool.
Okay, that's going to be in the beef footage that they're going to put together.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to convince me this time. Maybe my last mayor's breakfast talk.
We'll get that. We'll get it.
Yeah, I might want to be dressed in something different than this to jump in that pool, but this is beautiful.
This is amazing, and we want to thank the Terranea team. They always have this. So you do your mayor's breakfast either here or at Trump. So
That's right.
you can't go wrong.
No, we can't.
And thanks again for your service, and with all the things happening in our city. Enjoy the rest of your day. Mayor Cruikshank, I'm Liz Brown Swanson with RPV City Talk from the great Terranea Resort. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Bye,
Thanks for
everyone.
joining us.